We conclude today the 10th chapter, speaking about teshuvah, ilah, the higher form of return to God. Higher because it's not coming from anything negative. It's returning the hay, the former hay in God's name, which has to do with one form that we spoke about is understanding bina. Hay, that hay is bina. Bina means understanding, having an understanding of who you really are and what your connection is to God and the greatness of God in your life and in the world. And the more we appreciate that and understand that, the more it'll give us a fervent feeling in our heart to connect through Torah mitzvahs. That was the primary idea. And then yesterday we introduced a different idea. The idea of studying brings us to the top of the mountain because it's God's wisdom that enables us to kind of have wings and get beyond. But then there is the way that is from the bottom of the mountain moving upwards. And the bottom of the mountain is coming from within. Coming from within is our heart. Because our heart is what's kind of connected downwards in the sense that our heart has many whims and desires that are not exactly good, holy for sure not, and therefore the transformation needs to take place there within the heart. How do we do that? Through prayer. That's the concept of prayer. Of course, it's not the only way, but that is the concept that we're dealing with over here. Through prayer, we rise up, we climb up, as in Jacob's ladder, had rungs on it, because that's the idea of prayer. You go from one level to the next level, or as we're using the metaphor, moving up the mountain. And that is called teshuvah ilah, the higher form of teshuvah. Why is it? What's the higher part of teshuvah over here? Again, it's not, as we've mentioned many times, it's not prompted because there's something to fix, something to mend. There's something wrong that I need to fix in my relationship with God or with anybody else. And that's not my focus. My focus is that I want to connect. I want to return. I want to get closer to God. God is infinite. I'm finite. And as close as I can be, there's always more. There's a greater closeness. So there's that fervent desire, and this is coming from within. It's expressed through prayer. That's where it begins. It doesn't end in prayer. It doesn't just stay with prayer. From that prayer, it brings us to learning Torah. It brings us to doing mitzvahs. But it's coming in a way of a greater refinement and a gradual process of moving up. Moving upwards, as we explained at great length yesterday. Now, the Alter Rebbe says that this teshuvah, tashuv hay, the return the hay, that we're talking about, the higher level of return, of penitence, is God always needs to be predicated. It has to come before that from somewhere, from the lower return of tashuv hay, of returning the latter hay in God's name. In other words, there's a process over here. You can't do the higher form of return, connection to God, if you don't have the lower level of return. So here the Alter Rebbe is going to explain two very interesting aspects in prayer. There's that one is about the lower return and the higher return, how that expresses itself. So if you recall, the lower return, right, which is about the things about me that need fixing, well, prayer is also that place where you need, where there's mending and fixing things about us. And that needs to be done with a contrite heart. And this is what our sages say in the Mishnah, that one should embark on worship only with what's called kovid rosh. Kovid rosh, an earnest frame of mind. Rashi says and explains it. What does that mean? Humility. So prayer needs to start with humility. And through humility, what will that lead you to? To arouse divine compassion. Something that we mentioned, if you recall, in chapter 7. What is the divine compassion? Recognizing the greatness of our soul and what we have done to it. That brings us to certain bitterness. Oh, look what I have done to the great, lofty, divine soul that I have. Furthermore, look what I've done to God, the divine presence. But here it's more focused on us, what we have done to us. It creates a bitterness of spirit. Now, this idea of bitterness of spirit, we actually learn from Hannah when she came to the Mishkan, to the tabernacle, to pray to God. And from her, actually, we learn most of the idea of how to pray. And one of the things is a bitterness of soul. It sounds kind of, off-putting. But bitterness of soul means owning your stuff and having the compassion over yourself and grieve over your divine nature, your divine soul. And because you have such compassion over it, you grieve. You're bitter because of what has happened to it, what you've done to it. And of course, that's a vehicle for change. That's owning your stuff, and that's the lower level of teshuvah, of returning the hay in us and the hay in God, of course, in God's name. But that is all the Alter Rebbe explains, is a preface to actual prayer. Prayer, though, should not be from a bitter place. It should not be from a contrite heart. As our sages say, that one should embark in prayer and worship only mitoich simcha, with joy. That's the only way to actually pray. So it's interesting. First, you need to have the humility that leads you to a contrite heart, that you own your stuff, rather than, right, as we've mentioned previously, it is better that you face your stuff rather than stuff your face. So when you face your stuff, own it, that comes from a humility that gives you to a contrite heart that leads you to actually, as I mentioned again, we learn from Hannah that she had a bitterness towards herself on her situation. And that leads to a broken heart. But that's all the Alter Rebbe says is the lower level of teshuvah, and is only a preparation to actual prayer. Prayer itself, though, has to be with joy. And that's an expression of a higher level of teshuvah, Teshuvah ilah. Now, why would prayer be with joy? Why? So the simple explanation is because it's an opportunity for us to connect to God. Most people look at prayer as, a beseeching God. I'm lacking something. I need something. So the first level of that is, we're lacking something. We are lacking, and we need to own it and fix it. But actual prayer, the word tefillah, which means prayer, comes from the word tofil, to connect. It's about a connection. It's about connecting with God. That itself should lead us to a great sense of joy. Enormous joy to have that opportunity. Now, the Alter Rebbe says that in our generation, we're not so capable of going from one thing to another. So just think about it. You have the bitterness, or the contrite heart, through the from humility, and then now to come to joy in prayer. So Alter Rebbe says in our generation that's a very difficult thing to do. So really, this bitterness, contrite heart, he says should be done by the midnight prayer, not Krishma before bedtime. Back in the day, people would wake up midnight and do what's called Tigal Chatzais, and there would have the contrite heart. And then when they come to the morning, they would be with great joy. The Alter Rebbe says, well, if you can't do that every night, it's a bit of a lofty task. At least do it once before Shabbos, because Shabbos itself, interesting, is also teshuvah. Look over here. Shabbos is spelled Shin, Beis, Tav. That's a vowel. So you can take it out. It's not a consonant, it's a vowel. So that spells Shabbos. Same letters as, if you turn it around, Tashuv. So Shabbos is about returning. Actually, what happens on Shabbos? We have what's called Aliyah, so Malchus. That Malchus, that is the force of the Creator that creates the world, has an Aliyah, ascends to its source. That's why when Shabbos begins, it's literally, at that split moment, is a new reality, because the world has ascended. If you're spiritual enough, or lofty enough, or a divine soul, or godly enough, you'll appreciate that. I don't, but I don't sense that. I know it. I don't experience it. But that's okay. I don't think any of us will. But the point is, that's what Shabbos is. Shabbos is return. Shabbos, the day itself is returning to its source. So we return to our source, and that's a higher level of teshuvah. Right? Returning to our source. Why? Not because of anything bad, but because we want to be connected to the loftier source where we come from in the divine order of things. That's teshuvah law. That's what Shabbos is. So therefore, before Shabbos, do the lower level of teshuvah. So you come into Shabbos, and Shabbos is an expression, the entire day is an expression of the higher level of teshuvah, right? In other words, it's a return to God, not out of mending, fixing things. And that's why actually on Shabbos you can't mend and fix anything. Don't fix the world. There's nothing to fix. It's in its source. It's in a holy place. It doesn't need fixing. That's the idea of the malachas, of the work on Shabbos that we don't do, that expresses the reality, because there is nothing to do. There's no need to do anything, because it is found in its root source. That's the higher level of teshuvah. That we return not because there's something to fix. We're found in our source. Connecting to our source. Returning to that source. So that's what Shabbos is. So the Alter Rebbe says, therefore, do the lower level of teshuvah before Shabbos, so you can enter into Shabbos in this. And of course, the prayers on Shabbos are in particular this idea of teshuvah ilah, the higher level of connection. And that's why during the week we'll make requests for things that we need. Rifa'enu, heal us. Baruch Aleinu, give us plenty. In the material things that we need, and all the other things we make requests for. Shabbos, we don't make a request, because the higher level is just about the connection. There isn't something you make a request because there's a lack. Just like their teshuvah tata is a lack in me, and therefore I have to fix it. So the request is also other lacks that I have that I'm making a request from God. Shabbos, there is no request to make. Even when we do a Misha Berach for someone who needs a speedy recovery, we say Shabbos Limzay. We don't go through the whole thing of the healing process, because Shabbos is without crying out to God in lacking, because it's a day that we are returned. The day is returned. We return a higher level of teshuvah, that we're connected. So that's what Shabbos represents. Therefore, and in particular, again, the prayers on Shabbos. Therefore, don't speak about any needs that need to be filled. Just the need to connect to Hashem. And of course, through that, that's why the day is celebrated with, with meals that we connect with our family and friends. It's with Fabringen. You fabring on Shabbos, so you connect with others, and so on and so forth. That is the today's teachings. So what's the take home? My take. So firstly, just the notion that prayer, as our sages say, has to be in a state of joy. And you actually come to, that's amazing. How counterintuitive is that for us? How we probably thought differently. And the reason why is because, hey, when do you pray? Yeah. I just saw a cute cartoon. An Ashkenazic boy is speaking to a Sephardic boy. And the Ashkenazic boy is speaking about, he says, before we eat every night, we say a prayer over our food, says the Ashkenazic boy. So the Sephardic boy says, oh, we don't need to do that. My mother, she's a good cook. It's cute. And others, why do you need to pray? Well, you need to pray because you need something. You need a thing in your life. And what is that? Well, that the food should be tasty, it should be good, right? Well, I don't need to pray because, my mother's a good cook, so I don't need something from God. So I don't need to pray to him. And that's most people, the concept of prayer. And again, it's really it's a request. And that usually that request is coming from a place. It's either you need healing, you need you want to have good tasty food. Let's pray that the food comes out, it's good. So you need something, you're lacking. So of course it's not coming from a good place. It's not coming from a place of joy. It's coming from a place of lack. And that's what most people's notion of prayer is. Not Jewish. Very not Jewish. Whether you're Ashkenazic or Sephardic. And this is the Talmud, saying this. The sages in the Talmud, so it's not like, whoa, the Alter Rebbe is, a novel understanding. No. One should embark in worship, in prayer, simcha, only with joy. The opportunity to connect, to be bonded in one with God. So that is why it's an expression of the higher form of teshuvah, of return. And in that is interesting, having that joy. So you need first to own your stuff, and you have that, so to speak, contrite heart, or bitterness rather, of a contrite heart. And in the next chapter, we're going to bring the two things together. But that's all a preparation. And I'm not overemphasizing because it needs to be emphasized. Again, it's not about things in your life. It's not about having something from God. Because at the lower level teshuvah, it's about you fixing what you need to fix. And the higher level of teshuvah is not about things. It's about the connection. It's about the relationship. And that's amazing. So, in a human terms, you know, when you are connecting with another, so it can be a ball and chain, can be duty. Duty has arrived. But if we get to the teshuvah ilah, then it's not about duty, it's about the connection and the joy to be able to connect. It's pretty developed kind of relationship. Much more mature form of a relationship. So that's one idea over here. And then the idea of Shabbos is very profound. So on the external level, Shabbos is about observance, do's and don'ts. And we need to observe Shabbos the way it's meant to be observed. The way Jewish law tells us to observe it. Absolutely. But at the same time, we also need to be able to appreciate the deeper, profound idea of Shabbos. That is, and what we're engaged in. That it is, especially summer months, that it's a long Shabbos day. So therefore, again, there's a ball and chain that one can feel at least. But when we understand that it's really teshuvah, it's Shabbos is the letters teshuv, to return to the real me. It's a day and opportunity that I can truly be me. During the week, I'm kind of play a role as in the work that I do, and perhaps other roles that I play. Shabbos, you don't play a role. You just are. Because you've returned to a deeper place of your reality, to your neshama, and that's what the beauty of Shabbos is. Now, you got to observe it appropriately in order to get that. If you can think that you just, do it the way you want to do it, and not the way on God's terms, then it doesn't work. Doesn't work. I mean, maybe you get something. I'm not saying you don't get anything. But when does it really work that you become real and you become connected to a deeper place in you? Is through the actual observance. It gives us that opportunity. So many people get lost in the do's and the don'ts, and it's important. We need to know them. Coming up soon in the Rambam, we're going to learn. But we have to appreciate the deeper dimension. That it's a day that I'm not dedicated to my phone. I'm not, connected to my phone. I'm not connected to things. I don't have anything in my pocket. I don't carry anything. I don't need anything. I don't even need a key to open the door of my home. The deeper idea. Now, it's halacha. You can't carry even a key on Shabbos. So you have to make a Shabbos belt and all these things, right? Unless there's a kosher eruv or whatever. But what does that mean? It means I don't need those things. I don't need my phone. I don't need even a key to carry. I don't have to carry anything except my connection to God. That's all I have. And that's, of course, not a physical caring. That's what I have to care about, so I don't need to carry anything. So much so. That's why one of the ideas of Shabbos, the main idea of Shabbos, is caring. That actually the Torah speaks about. Only two things that actually about fire and caring. Caring something. Because I only care about my connection. Now that connection is going to be expressed through prayer. It's going to be expressed through a meal. It's going to be expressed through say l'chaim. It's going to be expressed through a Torah study, right, and so on and so forth. But the main point over here that I want to bring up is how Shabbos allows us to really connect to a deeper place within us, and hence a deeper place with others. And of God, of course. right. So, questions, comments, thoughts? Let me see on Facebook before I lose the feed. Is there any questions here? Davida, is having an additional neshama on Shabbos adding to this joy? Absolutely correct. Yes, we have an additional neshama that allows us to experience Shabbos to its fullest. Susan, on Shabbos I am happy, but I am aware of people who did not have enough food. This bothers me. There's no kosher place for them to get food. So we have to prepare for them before Shabbos, Susan. You know, I give to, you know, an organization over here who gives out every week food to families that don't have enough food for Shabbos in particular, but yeah, in particular for Shabbos. So no, I give money there, so that, to make sure, yeah, that if I'm celebrating Shabbos, I want that other Jewish families should be able to celebrate likewise. Absolutely. I know now. Okay, we've got a few over here, but let me just see. Did I miss any other questions? I think I got them all. Yes, but absolutely, we need to take care of others. That's an important thing, but we can't do that on, well, we can do it on Shabbos if we invite them to our home. Absolutely. Yes, Carl, on Shabbos it's about Kavod Shabbos, the honor of Shabbos, and Oinig Shabbos, and the pleasure of Shabbos. Absolutely. Absolutely correct. Right, and that's why we eat our best foods, we dress with our best clothing, you know, and all of these other things that are very important that we do in order that we can honor and celebrate Shabbos properly. Is adopting a baby on Shabbos allow the birth and adopting parents some joy? I don't know what you mean by adopting a baby on Shabbos. What do you mean, like having them over a baby on Shabbos? Shabbos allow the birth and adopting parents some joy. Yeah, I guess. I don't know exactly. You also have time for Shabbos. Yes, we have. Yeah, we have time for Shabbos over here, and actually we have several organizations in Montreal that collect to give out food. Sometimes they give out money. Sometimes they give out actual food. It's amazing. All right, any other questions, comments? Anybody here? Lindsay, Eliana, Vilma, Bachia, Celeste, Norm, Narcy, Ruben. Yes, Eliana, please share with us.
Hey, just a question of practicality. What is a practical way or a way to actually bring that joy into Shabbos? I mean, I know we have the time of preparation, and which usually ends up with sometimes even stressing over everything done on time to get it ready for Shabbos. That I can easily lose the joy of Shabbos because I'm trying to get all the do's and don'ts right. So how do we practically bring that joy in?
Right. Well, of course, you know, what we spoke about here and having that awareness will definitely, but I know what you mean. Sometimes Shabbos you get so rushed, especially not summertime because you've got a lot of time to prepare, but, you know, winter time when it comes in early and you're so rushed that Shabbos comes and you're like, you got no energy. You're like, you have no energy to enjoy Shabbos. You know, it's, I guess, you know, one of the things is planning, to plan things in a way so you're not, you know, so over the top, you know, tired, and you've got the energy because you know need that. Without that energy, then it's definitely very difficult to have the joy, the pleasure, and of Shabbos. So with that planning, but I think you know, if we change our clothes, you take a shower and you have your, the nicest, foods of the week you're eating, and you're setting up the table for Shabbos. All of those physical things that we do, they create a mood, they create an ambiance, they create in us, the anticipation. Now, probably another good thing is where you're celebrating it, and with who you're celebrating it. So that would also make a big difference. If you're celebrating with people that they don't have the spirit of Shabbos with them, right? It's ball and chain. So it's going to be harder for you to really celebrate Shabbos in a way that it's teshuvah ilah, that it's a higher form of connection, of returning to Hashem. It's going to be more going through the motions. So, well, definitely if, your local Chabad, they celebrate Shabbos with teshuvah ilah. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Any other thoughts?
Hi, Rabbi. Good morning.
Good morning, Batya.
I just wanted to piggyback off of what Eliana was saying about practical ways of having or getting joy out of Shabbos. And one of the things that was really important and is instrumental, especially with the woman of the house, is having Shabbos guests. Having Shabbos guests, it's nothing more warming and such a beautiful atmosphere than having to, celebrate Shabbos with others. In other words, we shouldn't be alone for Shabbos.
Good point.
I'm going to show.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, being alone definitely is not going to bring, the joy of Shabbos, and it's definitely going to feel more of a ball and chain, a duty and not the joy. That being said, the bottom line is duty, doing what you got to do. So I know a friend of mine, he was flying back from New York to England, and flight delays, and the flight came in to Heathrow on Shabbos. So, he spent Shabbos in Heathrow Airport. He observed it 100%, and he tried as much as he could to make it joyful, because that's part of the duty. So, like, if you know that, I'm actually, this is, let's put it in these terms. If joy in life is something that we think that we is coming to us, or we ought to have it, then you know what? It's actually, that's like happiness. Happiness is a thing. It's a thing we want. We want to be happy, but it's a thing. And when we're after things, we usually don't get the things. Usually don't get the things we want. But joy is not a thing. Joy is an avodah, is a service of God. Ivdus Hashem b'simcha, serve God with joy. So, my friend in Heathrow Airport, all by himself. Oh yeah, there were thousands of people around him, but he was all by himself, right? Had a joyful Shabbos. Probably had some limitations, He sang a lot, and he davened a lot and learned a lot, and he did it with great joy. You know why? Because joy is not about having something. Simcha is an attitude. It's a frame of mind. It's a perspective on life. So if we have that, then we will celebrate with joy, whether it is with many people or just by yourself, because it is a frame of mind, it is an attitude that we have. So we need to be aware that we are in control of that. So yes, there are things that we do to to make it easier, to enhance it. Wearing your best clothing, having your best food, and setting up the table, nicely, that you don't do during the week. And we need to do those things because that's the law, first of all. And also it enhances. So even if it, but if for whatever reason we need to do, because that's halacha, and we need to observe it. And it will bring greater joy, for sure, no question. But the greatest joy is going to come because, hey, it's Shabbos. And sometimes I'll be quite frank and honest that, Shabbos comes and I'm like tired, and then I just think to myself, it's Shabbos, and just like, focus and you got to be joyful. Why? Just because it's Shabbos. Not because of a thing, not because I'm going to gain something here, not because I'm going to, I want something. It's Shabbos. You got to be, that's what you got to do. So you do it. You do it. That's a different way to live. I've been hounding on this a lot, and I hope the message is getting through. And again, it's about things versus, means to an end rather than an end in itself. It's about things that we want, rather than the connection. So if you're really connected to Shabbos, so you're going to be joyful because it's Shabbos, period. And that's what you got to do. And therefore you're going to be what you got to be and do what you got to do. And nothing around you has to deter that. So even my friend in Heathrow Airport, nothing deterred him. He davened, he learned. Okay, now to say that he wasn't looking for that experience, and he didn't go back there the next week. Okay, it was such a wonderful Shabbos, I'm going back there next week. Experience again. No, God presented to him a situation. He wasn't going to allow that situation to control him. He was going to be the master of it, and he was going to be full of joy because that's what you got to be. Just as davening, you got to have joy, as we learned, right? The higher level of teshuvah, that's reflected in Shabbos, and therefore we have we enter Shabbos with this higher level of connection. Vilma.
I agree. Joy is an attitude, just like the way we see and perceive the world is an attitude. And it doesn't come from other people. It doesn't come from things. It comes from us. We create peace. We create joy in our hearts. We choose to see the world from whatever perspective we choose. And personally, I'm not down with being a negative person. That's not who I am. I don't think anybody enjoys being sad or whatever, or angry or frustrated or, so I'm very comfortable being alone. I know that for a lot of people, they feel sad about it. But I think having other people in your life is an extra. Like having a son, for me, was a blessing. I didn't ask for it, and I'm not down on myself for whatever circumstances. I just love, and it's an extra, having that blessing, having family, having friends, all that. But the joy in my life, I bring that. The peace in my life, I bring that to myself. And the connection with God, I've had that since I was born. And I can say with certainty that I walk with God, and I love that connection, and I seek that connection.
Thank you. Yep, that's what we need to do exactly. Thank you. Claire is asking, could you do a class on Shabbos and how to proper observe Shabbos? We're going to do that in Rambam shortly, actually, in Maimonides teachings. Reminder, every day 12:45 we do Maimonides teachings on 770-770-6085. Zoom, that's Zoom, the address for Zoom. And also on Chabad ZK Facebook. So you can catch it there if you don't want to come on Zoom. You can catch it there. And we will be doing soon the laws of Shabbos. It's going to be a real engagement. That'll be, I don't know, a couple of weeks or something like that. Or a week or so. We'll be starting. But come and join us in the meantime. Ruben, please share with us.
Hi, Rabbi. I wanted to ask if you could repeat, please, the Zoom meeting number.
Oh, sure. 770-6085. Too bad on Clubhouse you can't write anything. can only converse.
Perfect.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions, comments, any other thoughts? I don't see anything else here. A reminder, Tanya journaling. I've got some great feedback from people on how the teachings that we are going through. There are people that are right now have this book open, to chapter 10, and they're writing notes from today's class. And then even if they don't go to the next step to kind of personalize some of the teachings, even if they don't do that, just by writing the notes, you own the teachings much more so. It becomes something that is integrated and a part of you in a much more real way. And I'm getting great feedback from those who engage in it. Those who don't, I start. And so the new book is coming out. This one was only good for 30 days because it was for this third book, which is short, 30-day teachings. The next one will be for 4 months until the end of all of Tanya. And and it's the same price. I mean, it's a bit bigger. It's not much because we're just doing it by the letters. 20 Canadian dollars with shipping. Just the shipping alone is pretty expensive to get it to you. Go to TanyaRabbi.com, TanyaRabbi.com, and sign up over there. Strongly suggest you do that because it is a game changer in people's lives. Literally. It's taking Tanya to the next level. That's it. Anything else? All right. Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to do a couple I ams. I know now. I saw earlier, and I hope I didn't lose the feed. Heather, I know now that the connection to God is to be approached with humility and to connect rather than from a requestless presentation. Very good. Eugenia, I know now that the higher level of teshuvah is an opportunity to connect to Hashem, to develop the relationship with Him, Hashem, with God, expressed through a joyful prayer. Excellent. Excellent. Norm, please share with us.
Hey, Rabbi, how's it going?
Thank God. And you, how are you?
Thank God. Doing fine, thanks.
Wonderful.
I was over at 770 the other night. I actually don't live that far away. So,
Wow.
That was a fun experience. Somebody walked me through. I hadn't been there in a long time. I never knew exactly what to do, but apparently anybody can just go in.
At any hour, any time.
Kind of crazy. Yeah, what a scene, huh?
Oh, amazing. It's something else. Yeah, if anybody thought that Chabad is part of organized religion, Just go to 770.
Yeah. That'll disabuse you of that notion.
Oh, totally.
So it's very funny.
Oh, very nice.
I'm trying to organize for myself a nice pair of tefillin, and then try to get myself to put them on regularly to get started with that. So I feel good about that. I feel like that's a good beginning.
That's not a good beginning. That's an amazing beginning.
Okay, why do you say that?
Because it's a daily activity. It's a personal connection to Hashem. And it's real. It's expressed in a physical way with, leather boxes. So there's the spirit behind it, of course, the connection, absolutely. But it's expressed in a physical way, and that is it's very powerful. And also, one of the things about tefillin, because we put it on the head and we put it on the arm against the heart, it brings out one of the major ideas of Tanya, of Moyach Shalit Ala Alev, that the mind has dominion over the heart. So it helps us to see things in a different perspective, to be able to feed the heart with that understanding that we have of a deeper reality of God's presence in our lives and the goodness that we can perceive as a result, and bring that to the heart and allow it to seep into the heart and be a different person, so to speak, be a much more evolved individual. Does that resonate?
Yes. Can I add to that, please?
Sure. Oh, go ahead, Ruben. Absolutely.
Okay, Norm. I started putting my tefillins actually about 3 weeks ago, daily, except for Shabbat, obviously. And I have felt that it helps me a lot, not just to pray in the morning, but I also agree with the comment on the physicality of it. The way I see myself when I wrap the leather around my arm is sort of a reminder of the emotions I need to control and guiding my actions through my emotions and through my mind, which is one of the main concepts I think about putting the tefillin on.
Yep.
And so far, it's not that I have experienced. Well, I think the changes I've gone through are quite big, and even my girlfriend told me that I seem much more calm these days, and I think it's because I'm somehow controlling my anger better. I'm not sure if it's the tefillin or the praying or the both combined or only one of them, but in general, I feel like it's a positive thing to spend 20-30 minutes a day in the morning doing that.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Amazing. Norm, any thoughts on that?
Any thoughts on it? I guess I was just wondering, it just occurred to me, since it's the sort of emphasizing the heart over the mind over the heart, I just thought it's funny that the box on the arm goes next to the heart, but not like over the heart, but the one on the head goes over the head.
Actually, that's interesting. So let's think about that for a moment. So, over the head, right? Because there's something beyond the head. How could you have the mind having dominion over the heart? Well, the truth is, that is the way God created us. We stand upright. We lie down, then the head, the heart, and the feet are all on the same level. Animals are on fours because the mind and the heart and everything about them is on the same level. But we, as upright people, upright in every sense of the word, the head is on top, and then there's a neck that takes whatever in your head, and it comes narrow, because just because you know something doesn't mean you're going to develop a true feeling in your heart as a result. Just because you know how good it is to do a mitzvah doesn't mean that you have a real feeling in your heart for it. But it does seep down into the heart, that it should then affect the heart. So it's next to the heart, but because it's only next to it in the sense that it's affecting it, it's developing it, but not, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not compelling it. Not compelling. Not compelling it. No, that's the word.
Conquering. Compelling is good though.
Yeah, no, it's not compelling it. It's not compelling it. So it's next to it, it's not compelling it. On the other hand, on top of the head is because ultimately there's something beyond even our head. An awareness of our connection that's beyond us allows us to use our head in a healthy way, as opposed to very self-directed way. Does that resonate? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
If I can help in any way, Norm, to facilitate your getting of tefillin, I am ready to help in any way possible. You can.
Do you have a connection over at 770?
Yeah.
Because I'm figuring if I get one for myself, I should get one for my kid too. This morning, I was thinking he's going to leave for school in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just starting to worry, as one does, which is probably not that useful. What's he going to do? Is there enough Jewish connection up there at his college in Vermont? It's called Bennington. To keep him connected. So I thought, maybe I should get tefillin for him too.
Absolutely.
And then, yeah.
So I'm going to look into it, and we'll be in touch. And I will let's be in touch. I will definitely help whatever way I can. What's the name of the school?
That he's going to Bennington, Bennington, Bennington.
Okay. We're in Vermont.
So it's in a very tiny town. It's in a very tiny eponymous town.
Okay.
Meaning town of the same name. Do you see my DMs? Is that a good way for you? Also, I detached my Instagram because I didn't want to be trolled. But my Instagram is actually the same, which is to say @Reb Norman.
Got it.
Should be not hard for you.
Okay.
Not a hard one to remember. I'm very proud that early on in the days of email, I started with my address being Reb Norman.
I like that.
Yeah, I got lucky with that.
Beautiful. Okay, yeah, I have it.
Thanks.
Very good. All right, beautiful. Okay, folks. This is when we get to discuss about a mitzvah and enhancing a mitzvah or starting with a mitzvah, then we know that our discussions are not just philosophical feel-good ideas, but they're coming into a practical expression of a mitzvah that is really amazing. So I actually thank you, Reb Norm. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
All right, folks. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Tzich and Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have a wonderful day. God bless you.